Why do we sit here being silent, watching our leaders turn into tyrants? Have they forgotten which side they're fighting for? Checks and balances set aside and rule of laws, youth and ours, and Constitution openly ignored. Man, I'm not okay. Think we are being played. Is it time for right and left to join a greater cause? Man, I'm not okay. The rich claim to be victimized just to attack the marginalized. Is 1% really worth more than all the sick and poor? Always preaching about fellowship while planning their dictatorship. Now we've seen how all of this plays out before. Man, I'm not okay. Think we are being played. Time for you and I to join our country's call. Man, I'm not okay. Ever wonder all the mystery? Why they whitewash our history? Keep dividing is their plan. All in all, such a scam. Algorithm very sly, only used to spread the lies. Politicians know well, hate is simple to upsell. Man, I'm not okay. Think we are being played. Time for you and I to join our country's call.
We are not okay. America is not okay, and we all know that. Former Congressman Joe Walsh, this is the Social Contract with Joe Walsh. Let's figure out how to get okay together. Thank you, everybody who's joining us. We intend to do this every fucking Tuesday at 1 o'clock Eastern time, because Xander and I are like brothers. He's way younger. We have a lot of differences, but we actually share a lot of things in common. And we're going to be talking about how to reform this fucking antiquated political system of ours. So welcome. Make sure you follow and subscribe to Xander and defiance.org. They are doing God's work, everybody. Xander,
You're such a tier one promoter. You're so good at it.
I never promote myself. I do a shitty job of promoting myself. I've always been that way. Look, I was one of the leading MAGA voices.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was a hallucination. I had issues I believed in. I've said this a gazillion times publicly. I thought Trump was just a piece of shit, but I thought
from the jump.
But Xander, I didn't pay enough attention to him. He's evil. And that's bad on me that I didn't recognize that at the beginning. You
thought he was like yet another slimy New York real estate guy.
Yeah, just a goof and an idiot. And all he's going to do for 4 years is play golf. And maybe a couple good things might get done. I was way fucking wrong. But I like what I wanted, because this is why I went to Washington. I wanted to blow up Washington. I wanted to drain the fucking swamp. I wanted absolute disruption. This was 6 years before Trump. So when he came along, I knew that I wanted disruption. He clearly was a disruptor. And all of my followers and all of my audience wanted disruption too.
Right.
Xander, at that time, Hillary Clinton was the poster child for the establishment.
The most institutional candidate you could have
chosen. So I said, okay, I want disruption. This guy's a goof, but maybe we'll get some disruption. But then when he got elected, and it was my job, because I'm on the radio all over the country, to pay attention to him every single fucking day. I mean, I realized in a matter of just a couple months that this thing is going to go south for me. Eventually, I'm going to have to publicly oppose him. And it took me about a year to do that.
And what was your seat at that moment? Were you in Congress at the time? You said you were on the radio at the time? Where were you?
I was just out of Congress.
Just out of Congress.
I was becoming, Xander, the next Rush Limbaugh, baby. I was the leading.
You got a voice for it. It doesn't surprise me at all. That's where you were heading.
And that's where I was going. And for the first time in my life, I was making money. I was the poorest member of Congress, like literally out of all 435 members. So I got out of Congress and I'm on Fox News every day. I'm on the radio around the country. He's going to be the next Rush Limbaugh. I'm finally making money. Everything's going fucking great. And then Trump gets elected. And within a matter of months, Xander, I realized this was the very guy that me as a Tea Party guy feared. And it took me a while to come to terms with it.
When you said do you remember like the first thing you saw where you go, oh no, this is not the alliance I thought it could be?
Yeah, there were two signs out of the gate. When he won in 2016, and then it came out that Russia fucked with our election to help get him elected. All of our intelligence community, all of Trump's intelligence people said the same thing. And that fucker's first reaction was to say, fuck no, because he didn't want his victory tarnished.
It hurt his ego too much.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Like if you or I had gotten elected and we found out Russia helped get us, fucking A, I'm calling for an investigation because we can't let that ever happen again. That showed me that Trump is
his priority. Yeah.
Incapable of putting the country's interests ahead of his own. And then, Xander, when I really started to pay attention to him, I realized every time he opens his mouth, he lies. Like, I'm very distrusting of government, but I can't have a president or a governor or a senator lie to me all the time. Like, I don't care what he gives me. I can't have him lie to me.
Yeah.
So then I started to play kind of the good cop, bad cop thing with Trump. When he did something I liked, I'd praise him. When he did something I didn't, I'd criticize him.
Right.
During this time, Xander, I'm getting fucking beaten up by my audience. Fox News people are killing me. My advertisers are killing me. My radio syndicators are killing me because by this time, everybody's got to get on Team Trump. And they're telling me, Joe, you're the most dynamic fucking voice we have. Don't you go soft on us now. So it was just beginning to slide.
So you were getting crushed for criticizing him. That was probably peak. That was peak closest we were getting to more of like a cult-like following than it was like a popular political figure, where it was like you couldn't do anything wrong. He's like, I could shoot someone, on Park Avenue or on Fifth Avenue and get away with it. That was probably a hard decision. It was probably hard to turn away from, just personally. I'm not saying, I think you have a lot of moral clarity and that's why people are drawn to you and why you have a big following. But that had to be a hard decision to kind of make that leap. In the same way, my partner, Miles Taylor, his decision, he's got a lot of moral clarity too, but your decision to essentially torpedo your existing career for an unknown impact. I think that's like what makes it hard. It's like, not are you willing to do it, but it's like, are you willing to do it if the reward is like you're not able to shift where the country's headed, and you can't have the impact you want. What got you across that line? What made you ultimately say, okay, I'm going to make do you remember the day or the moment you were like, okay, like, this has become clear to me and I'm going to do it?
Yeah, again, and I don't know if I don't want this to sound like I was a coward. I came home from my radio show and met my lovely bride for dinner. We sat at the dining room table to have dinner about 3 months after he was president. And again, Xander, for the first time in my life, I'm making money. And I looked at her that night and I said, there's going to be a point within this next year where I'm going to publicly turn against him. And sweetie pie, we're going to lose everything. That was the hardest fucking thing I've ever said to my wife. And then it took me, it was hard to do, Xander, because like I walked away from like the family I had. I walked away from my former party. I walked away from all of my friends. I walked away from all of my voters and all of my supporters. I put up with death threats like Miles does on a fairly regular basis, and it's been that way for years. So it took me then a little bit to finally pull the trigger. but I was walking that way. And again, I'm getting pounded over the head by all of my business people and media people. And by all of my Jim Jordan, Ohio congressman, calling me up. Mark Meadows, congressman, calling me up. Joe, what the fuck are you doing, man? Come on. You can come back to the House. You can go to the Senate, man. You're one of our leading voices. I'm putting up with that. So look, Xander, the classic answer it was the hardest thing I ever did, because I quite literally took a blowtorch to my life and my career. But Xander, and you'll relate to this because you're cut of the same cloth, it was the easiest fucking decision I made, because honest to God, I couldn't live with myself if I just couldn't live with myself. That's
I
easy.
think you named it though. When you're in positions like we are at times, like the more challenging thing, and the thing that makes you drag your feet is sometimes the impact on your family, more than it is if it's clear to you. I think a lot of times things are clear, but I remember when Miles and I decided to launch Defiance, Miles has an executive order against him. He gets a lot of attention. I'm going to go put my face next to his.
Yeah.
And I also had this AI company that was about kind of trying to connect people to services they qualify for easier. And it was a startup that I was running with a team on it and everything like that. And the way things were trending, this is like October, right? 2025. The way things were trending October 2025, most of the major institutions and like private sector leaders were capitulating. Things were kind of moving downhill. I was like, I think I just have to get in this fight in all the ways I can, in the most effective ways I know how to. But totally. Like that's an unseen thing in this space. Is like, my wife's a yoga instructor. Like, she didn't sign up to be like a culture warrior, And like, even yesterday, I was like, if they do, they're ramping up the, this is like a little bit melodramatic, so I don't want you to just, but like, I was like, if they do arrest us at some point, like, make sure I have a sweatshirt, because I was in jail when I was 19. It's fucking cold. I was like, toss me a sweatshirt before they throw me in the car. But that's like a fucking hard thing. That's a hard conversations to have. It's hard for the families. It's hard for people who didn't sign up for this life to get that attention.
Yeah, Xander, you're so right, man. And again, you are a fighter and you lead with your heart, but you made a conscious decision. You got to be more public. And there are inherent risks in that. I was already a public person, so I had to make the conscious decision that I'm going to leave the entire political world in which I lived in. Because when I went on my radio show that night, when I finally publicly turned against him, I ended my career as a Republican. I ended my career as a conservative media voice. And again, and Miles will tell you the same thing. Quite literally, I lost damn near every friend I had, and certainly every supporter I had. You walk away from a world you've lived in forever.
Totally. I wonder, was your feeling at the time, mostly, by the way, gang, when we have these Tuesday talks, why I'm most interested in this is if Joe and I agree on something, I'm left of Gandhi. Joe's got his libertarian background.
By the way, Xander, emphasize that again for people, because we're going to do this every Tuesday. You come from the good, genuine far left. I come from the, before MAGA, the good, genuine far right. Yeah, we're different.
Right. I would call the closest thing I'm probably to is like an economic socialist, right? Just like trying to build social safety nets and programs that eradicate poverty and guarantee dignified survival. But I come from a school. I used to run MLK's foundation with his son before that. Previously, I ran something called Defeat by Tweet that Joe would have loved. We would have teamed up on that one, which was an opportunity for people to donate a penny every time Trump tweeted, and it went to swing state Black-led community organizers. That. And for a moment, Joe, I raised $15 million of PAC money through this thing. I was the largest funder of Black organizing in the country for a little bit. But unrestricted. So a lot of my thesis, to be honest, though, I talk about that economic thesis. A lot of my thesis is in democracy and making sure that communities that don't have power, and they're able to craft the society that they want. So ultimately, I'm okay if I don't get the economic system that I want, if it's a true expression of a democratic outcome where there's not marginalized folks and folks that are, being disenfranchised and the criminal justice system is using, is being weaponized to push them aside and whatnot. I'm okay with living, Joe, if at the end of the day, you win the argument, I lose it. I need to make my argument more popular before I win it
Yeah.
again, which is, I think you and I both have that priority, like
Yeah.
true expression of democracy. And then we make our case. But for this, I wanted to, for this first one. So why I like this opportunity with you is, I think as we talk about issues, if you and I both get excited, it says something. It says something about the potential for it to be, adopted and to have real traction out there. And I want to explore lots of big ideas about moving forward. But I thought today it'd be nice to I just want to know a little bit more about your path. I wonder, when you made that decision and you're like, okay, I'm walking away, did you have a sense that others were going to defect? Like, when you looked at that, when you talked to other people about the Russia thing, right? Which at the time, we're so used to Trump doing fucking crazy stuff all the time now. But at the time, you're like, hey, it's one thing if you want to tear down Washington, tear down the corruption, you've got a weird guy you're going to ally with. I imagine, by the way you described is a lot of how RFK probably thought going into this administration. He's like, I want to tear up our healthcare system. This guy's going to let me do it. But the Russia thing is different, right? Hey, you can want to take down Washington. You don't want to take down America. You don't want to be allied with the Russians and, some sort of psyops that they're running over there. Were you, what percentage chance did you think, as you had these conversations, you would pull others into your direction? Did you think you'd be standing alone?
Xander, is such a fucking good question. At every step along this way, when I made my decision, I would look behind me expecting others to be there.
Yeah, I imagine.
My final straw, when I finally publicly turned against Trump, was Helsinki, the summer of 18, when Trump stood in front of the world with Putin and said, I believe Putin and not my own fucking people. I went on my radio show that night and I said, that's the greatest act of disloyalty I've ever seen in an American president. I'm done with him. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure he doesn't win. At that point, Xander, I thought other Republicans would follow me. When I mounted my crazy, stupid presidential primary challenge against Trump in 20, Xander, like, I wrote a New York Times piece earlier that year saying, John Kasich, Mitt Romney, come on, somebody better than Joe Walsh, step the fuck up. This guy is an existential threat to our democracy. Nobody stepped up, so I challenged him. And when I challenged him, I thought other conservatives would get behind me. At every step along the way, I did think there would be others. I became a Democrat 11 months ago. Xander, I don't know how fucking long I'll become a Democrat. I'm an independent, but I became a Democrat for a very good reason. But when I did it, part of why I did it was to say, hey, you other Republicans or former Republicans, you can do this temporarily to help this side defeat that side. But more and more I realize, Xander, people aren't following.
Yeah. You feel like, I imagine up till that point in your career, you felt like you had a bunch of genuine ideological peers.
Oh.
And then as you saw them not defect, is your calculus like, how do you explain that? Are you saying, actually what I was dealing with is ambitious people that were using a narrative to further their career. And when they had to use another narrative or another story, they're happy to do that because ultimately ambition is their endpoint and they're just trying to get ahead. Like, what was that's got to be hard if you're talking about these ideas for so long with these people and then seeing them just so easily turn away from it. How do you explain it?
I put them, Xander, in 3 buckets. There were the ones, my former colleagues, who I realized were bullshitting all along. Period. There were the ones that you said, it's all about me, my career. I got to keep the TV show. I got to get reelected. They went along. And then there were the ones like Jim Jordan and a number of my other colleagues who would privately tell me, Joe, I know Trump's bad, and I know he's everything we said we detested.
Right.
But Joe, the Democrats are evil. And so sometimes we got to get in bad with a flawed dude to defeat the evil. That's also a real powerful strand among my former colleagues that I found.
When so I'm used to hearing Democrats are evil from voters, right? That's like from everyday people that, have been given a certain message. And I think there's like very valid criticisms of the kind of called the old guard Democratic Party, right? They were not nearly ambitious enough in taking on corporate and Washington corruption as like their primary flaw. They kind of lost their ability to fight for the people to the extent that that party used to when it relied more on unions and churchgoers.
And by the way, Xander, to
Yeah.
buttress what you're saying, when
Yeah.
I was in Congress, it became clear to me, like in an afternoon, that at one level, there's really only one party. The Democratic Party establishment and the Republican Party establishment are pretty close to the same. And what we had rebels like me on the right, and there were rebels on the left. And I found when I was in Congress, I actually did more work and
With the rebels on the left.
Oh, yeah, reached across the
Totally.
aisle and found common ground
Totally.
with the rebels on the left.
I wrote a article a while ago that said like how we think about the political axis is all wrong, and we think left right economic theory, and it's really institutionalists and like corporate captured groups and non-institutionalist, non-corporate captured groups, and there's a much bigger coalition on, I don't know where you want to put that group, much bigger coalition to be had on the kind of non-institutionalists who want to get rid of corruption, and as a kind of primary driver of why we're engaged in politics.
Yeah,
I totally believe that. So that had to be frustrating. It's interesting though, we're living in a moment where that breaking is now starting to happen. And if you looked at the issues, you'd say Epstein files is an issue that started to break that alliance, and allow people to start coming out against the administration. Iran war, a lot of people who voted for Trump because they didn't want forever wars, and now we're seeing an increasingly militant administration that's launched, several wars on several different countries at this point. Why do you think it's breaking now? Is it now these people are idealistic, or now that calculus, as you went through 1, 2, 3, that calculus is changing for these folks?
I think some of the more establishment voices are being forced to accept the new world, and I think you're seeing new voices come to the fore. Look, Xander,
that's a good point.
I come from the Tea Party. Unlike every other never Trumper I know, I come from the Tea Party MAGA base, and I got out. But I believe still in what the Tea Party was. It was a populist movement. It was an anti-establishment movement. You and I may disagree on plenty of what the Tea Party advocated, but it was an anti-establishment movement. The Democrats, I've been preaching for a while, and they're beginning to have it now. They need their fucking Tea Party moment. And they're beginning to have it, their populist anti-establishment moment. And the energy is going to be on the left, the far left, because our energy was on the far right. And my only concern, and this is what you and I can discuss as we go on with these lives, is balancing the populist leftist energy with trying to win fucking national elections. But clearly right now they're having their Tea Party moment.
Do you think so? Here's where I'm starting to land. It's kind of a betrayal in some ways to like my economic agenda. I am starting to land at corruption as the primary driver in all this movement talks about for a little while. And me as a believer of power, power to the people and whatnot, I'm going to almost trust fall into socialism. So by not making it the priority this time, because I don't know if there's a supermajority around socialism in America. I know, like, I know I like it a lot. I know I could like advocate for it. I don't know if there is. I do think there's a supermajority around anti-corruption. And I do think once you remove both corporate and Washington corruption from the equation, or at least corporations' ability to influence Washington, you're going to have a lot more good faith conversations with the general public, and you're going to have a lot more good faith actors in Washington, and we can have a more honest conversation. I almost feel like if you try to do both at once, it'll be challenging. Now we need an authentic voice, and maybe that authentic voice also believes in these things, and so they have to talk about them. But I'm saying I'm curious how this movement though can capture guys like you and Mamdani and say, we've got an agenda to clean up Washington, to reduce executive power, and to avoid all the shit that we not only just saw with Trump, but we've been seeing for the last, 50 years in this country.
I think you nailed it, my young friend. It's the joining of arms is anti-corruption and reforming this political system. And if we just focused on that, I mean, what is Trump? Trump's the fucking ugly result of a broken political system, of a corrupt political system. So if we just focused on that and not on a guaranteed living wage and all the other shit where we may disagree, and we would disagree, I think we could advance the ball. I think our political system, Xander, is fucking broken. And why don't we just focus on fixing that? I know this. I know that most Americans, my former party is an authoritarian embracing cult. Most Americans do not want authoritarianism. I do not believe, I hope and pray most Americans don't want socialism. But I know we're not ready to have that conversation yet. Not as long as our system is so corrupt and broken.
Yeah. What do you think accelerates that?
Because the Democrats have to talk about these issues as well. Like
Yeah,
you and
we
I
have a lot of
disagree.
Democrats.
I know you and I disagree on Israel. I'm off the charts pro-Israel. You and I surely disagree on the issue of Israel. And it's like Democrats can't avoid talking about it. And most of the party is with you and not where I am. So you do have to answer on various issues.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Like you can't. I just wonder. Like there's been times in history, and this is usually done from the outside, right? Like Martin Luther King wrapped up the conversation around voting rights or civil rights into a conversation about love and fairness, right? And it was able to build a big coalition that eventually, like, within that coalition, there was so much disagreement. There's so much, but it was able to be pointed and energized and kind of control the conversation in those years in ways that, in my mind, is how political progress happens. Political progress doesn't happen by creating a supermajority that believes everything in all the ways you believe it. It happens when you go, hey, I think this one issue, we're ready to tackle this as a nation, or at least the majority of us are ready to tackle it as a nation, and we get together and we make sure it happens. There's a lot, like I said, I used to run MLK's foundation with his son. I asked his son, what's different about now versus then? And he said, word gets out so fast now, you almost don't have time to like build your coalition and work out the messy stuff that happens. Who's leading it? Who's the spokesperson? What are we not talking about? What's our stance on this? Do you want to be out if we're doing this? It's okay if you're out if we're doing this, but like, it's like now it's like a series of tweets. All of a sudden you got 1 million person march, but you haven't worked out what's your policy. Who are your inside people that are going to propose the bill? that's going to, at a time where your popularity is peaking, it's going to pass. And so like, it's a real challenge at this moment. He wasn't being critical about current leaders. He's like, that's just the reality of the situation.
Xander, it's like, I don't know if you saw it Sunday, Barney Frank, longtime progressive congressman from Massachusetts. He's in hospice. He's on his deathbed. He was being interviewed by Jack Tapper on Sunday. Courageous thing to do. I mean, he literally looks like a skeleton. But that was the advice he gave to young progressives today. You can't go after the whole fucking apple right now on an issue. You have to slowly but surely persuade the American people step by step by step. And he opined, he worried that today's progressives, and these are longtime progressives, don't understand that, and they're going to charge down this road demanding A, B, C, D, E, and they're going to turn off a bunch of people, and J.D. Vance is going to be elected our next president because of shit like that.
It's interesting. Kelly A in our comments says, I don't think they like the word socialism, but they love their Medicare and Social Security. And that kind of actually is like making the point here is actually there's been a few moments in history where someone's won on a just totally different economic platform than the one the current society. Like usually you have to fight a civil war to do that. Like usually it's like, Lenin taking over, Russia after Tsar Nicholas. You get to flip the whole economic system. But when we're talking about democratically kind of organized progress, you usually don't win by going, here's an economic theory that I won. You go by tackling issue by issue, and you have basically, this is how I at least think of it. You have a list, and you have certain ones that you think are popular enough right now. And on my list is political corruption, right? That's the one that I think is at the top. There's other things that probably I need more effort to popularize before you get there. You need more allies. You need maybe different language around it so people can accept it, etc. And so and I don't know if this is maybe just the social media era, to your point, like people walk around saying, I am this and we need the system to be this versus like, this is the thing I'm working on, or here's my primary thing. Like going back to MLK, he did the Civil Rights Act, then the Voting Rights Act in succession. It wasn't, even that wasn't called equal rights, all across the board all the time.
Right.
He's like, he hit it. Now we know what his legacy is, that he was advancing that, but he tackled them in that order. What do you think? Give me the playbook
What
now.
is the one reform? Maybe, Xander, this is the question you're asking me. What would be the one anti-corruption political reform that you and me, left and right, and most Americans right away could rally around?
I bet there's probably 4 or 5. I bet it's not one. I bet as an issue, I think we could take on that issue, and I bet the solution could be 4 or 5. That I love the Pareto principle. What's the 20% of stuff you could do that gets 80% of the job done? I don't know. Let's do it. Let's do a draft. What's your top pick in your draft?
Xander, this is a cool exercise. If you and I could figure out what those 4 or 5 are, from where you come from and from where I come from, fucking A. That's the whole country.
Yeah. What's your top draft pick? What's your very first? Let's do Pareto principle per draft pick. What's your one that you're like, if just this happens, it solves a lot of issues?
I'm going to surprise you.
Okay.
I'd get rid of the Electoral College tomorrow.
Popular vote.
Tomorrow. What's your one that you'd lead with?
By the way, I'm removing feasibility from this.
I totally remove feasibility. Yeah.
I'm removing feasibility. If I'm just I think I'd expand the House. So districts are like 30,000 people. Just because gerrymandering's so hard to fucking get around, and we're gerrymandering to fight gerrymandering to fight we're in like this death spiral with gerrymandering. And if you get the House to like, hey, we have a representative for every 30,000 people, call it. You have people that are actually going to be able to play the role that House was intended for. Like, actually knows their neighbors, actually knows their communities. It's really hard to gerrymander tiny districts like that over the place. And so which is kind of nice because it's like, it feels more pro-democracy than anti-corruption, but it makes corruption really, really hard. And you have real representatives.
Absolutely. And by the way, expanding the House is one of the easiest ways to very quickly get another party or 2 or 3.
Totally.
It would open up the world to other political parties.
Totally.
That's good. That's a good start, Bucko.
That's two. Those are 2 admittedly very hard ones. Those are 2 very hard.
Hey,
those are 2.
Partner, as we close, I want you to tease.
Oh, we're over. I'm sorry, buddy.
No. You know what? I could talk. Look at that, Susie Q. I love this conversation. This is how America should do it. Oh my God, Xander, you're on your side. I want you to tease this weekly Tuesday segment. What are Joe Walsh and Xander Schultz going to set out to do with this?
We're mostly going to be talking about our outfits for the day, why we chose them. No, I don't know exactly what to call this, right? A socialist and a libertarian figure out what they agree on is the general concept, right? Of like, how do we move forward? What ideas are surprising that we both like? There's so much down, like we talked about political corruption today. I think we should do like the whole month on this. I think we should just keep talking about political corruption. But then we could talk about, what do you do about AI displacement, right? Like that's coming down the pike. Obviously, I come from like New Deal philosophy, Keynes, right? And like, but what I'm interested, like, what's yours? How do you deal with millions of people being displaced that we need to do something with? Retrain? Are there even jobs for them? What happens if there's just not that many? So that those conversations I'm really interested in, all that.
I agree. And everybody who's saying they're loving this and now they have something to watch on Tuesdays, thank you.
All right.
Spread the word. Understand something. I'll close with this. If Xander and I started with economic policy, we'd be punching each other's brains.
Right.
But I'll bet through the course of these Tuesdays, fucking A, we'll even find some economic policy that my far left and me far right can agree on.
Yeah, guaranteed. All right. I know
Thanks,
we're at
everybody.
time. I'll let you run, brother. It's so good seeing you, man.
Thanks, Andrew.
Cheers.
Thanks, everybody.
Love you. Later, bye.
Thank you for listening. Remember to listen, follow, and share The Social Contract with Joe Walsh on Apple, Spotify. Plus, don't forget to subscribe to The Social Contract on Substack. This has been The Social Contract with Joe Walsh.